Well, up. There we go. Yeah, that's good. All right, Red, come here. Up. Go on, up. Good girl. Vivo. Hello everyone, this is the United Downs Trials Park. This is the biggest trials park of its type in the country, and this is how we built it. So since the Trials Park opened in September of 2024, I've had literally dozens of people get in touch and ask us, how did we build this? How do we make this happen? Is there somewhere like this near me or further else around the country? And I'm going to try in this video and explain and answer as many of those questions as I can and how we made this Trials Park happen. So obviously, if you want to build a trials park like this, the first thing that you are really going to need is some land. Now, this land here is called United Downs Raceway. It's owned by Cornwall Council and it's operated by a group called Autospeed. And Autospeed are the people that we basically got in touch with. And I will talk a bit more about that later on. But if you're looking to build some kind of trials park, you're going to need a decent bit of space. A couple of acres, really ideally, on flat open ground that you can do what you want with. Now, if you look at somewhere like Bike Trial Academy or Derbyshire Bike Trial Centre or the Scottish Bike Trial at Drumclog, those places all have a couple of things in common, which is mainly that they're owned by people who have land and space to spare. Bike Trial Academy is the home of Charlie Rolls and his parents are farmers. He's a farmer as well, obviously. Ollie and Eddie Wakeman live at the Derbyshire Trial Centre. Their dad has some land there as well they were willing to use and let them use. And Drumclog, David Johnson is the owner of that, but his son Finn Johnson was really into trials riding. So that's the reason they ended up having some space to do something with. Now, a lot of the time, having a friendly farmer who also has a link to trials riding is not always an option, so you've got to look a bit further afield. So people have asked me, how do we get this space, this amazing, huge, initially open area to be able to put stuff in? Well, this is two things which are really helpful. One, it's a banger racing track and it's a place where they already hold motorbike trials competitions and things like that and have been doing it for years and years. The second thing is this is basically condemned land. It is land that you can't possibly build on because underneath my feet, starting about 30 meters down, it is riddled with mine shafts and all kinds of things like that, so it would be impossible for a developer to be able to put any kind of housing here or anything. So because of that, the land is basically unusable. But how do you find something like this? Well, the best thing to do is go and contact your local motorbike trials club. Go and ask them where they've been holding things, and most of the time it will be in farmers' fields and places like that, but they might have a local bit of wasteland or something that's known for hosting motorbike trials, or a scrambler track, or like here as well, they have 4x4 guys come in here, so off-roading centres and stuff like that. Go and find somewhere, even if you talk to the local council and there's a little bit of wasteland somewhere that's not being used, ask them. It might be quite tricky if it's public land, but if you can, the best thing I'd always say is to go and try and find a 4x4 centre, a scrambler track, somewhere where there's moto trials already there and stuff, so they have a bit of understanding about it, and ask them what you can put on the land and have a conversation with them. So that's point number one, is to find yourself some land. Point number two is find out who owns the land. Red, come here. So once you've found out who owns the land that you really want to put some stuff on, you need to go and have a conversation with them. Now, the conversation I had with the guys at Autospeed here, again, bear in mind, the land here owned by Cornwall Council, the tenants of the land are Autospeed, the guys that run the banger racing track. And I basically had a conversation with them where I said, we really want to do something here that will help you guys. We want to build something that will help with your charitable objectives, basically. That's kind of how the conversation went. I said to them, you do moto trials here, could we put some more stuff here? And the conversation went on to, they were basically saying, oh yeah, if we were doing cycling training here, that would be really helpful to show that we're doing something that's sustainable and helpful, and they really wanted to do it. So that's point number 2. Have a conversation with the person that owns the land, and all the conversations that you're going to have with anyone in this endeavour, you'll have to basically frame it as though you're doing something for them, because land is not cheap. If you're a farmer, you're going to farm every piece of available land that you have. You're not going to have anything going spare. And in this day and age, if there's other land that can't be farmed, someone's going to want to develop it. So being lucky is going to be a large part of this whole endeavour. If you're going to try and build a trials park, you need to have the luck to have somewhere like this. But it's Great Britain. There are large pieces of wasteland and things that no one wants to use that are left over from the Industrial Revolution, which is what this is. So go and have a look, see what you can do, have a conversation with the people who own the land and frame it as though you want to help them. And that's a brilliant way to go about starting it off. So once you've had a conversation with the people who own the land and you've both established what you can do for each other, and that they think, oh, wouldn't it be great if we had a cycle skills training area that people could come and use? And you guys are like, great, we can have a trials practice area. Then what do you do next? Well, the easy thing would be to do what we did and just put 150 tons of concrete and dumper truck tyres here. What you should actually do next is this: find some insurance. So insurance is a complicated proposition, because basically you have to be able to convince an insurer that what you're doing is safe enough that they want to take the gamble to give you any kind of cover. Now, fortunately, I'm in a position whereby I already have public liability insurance for my bike show, and I just was able to extend that to cover other people doing coaching and training and stuff. So I've written it off basically as a business expense. Now, I'm not going to go into all the different places that you could go and look for insurance to cover you in terms of public liability for a place like this, because that would make the video much longer. But I am going to put it in the comments below where I get my insurance from, where Bike Trial Federation gets their insurance from, and other people that you can go and talk to, and that will give you some kind of links to chase things up on. Now, don't get me wrong, it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you a couple of £100 each year probably in order to get insurance to cover the space that you're doing. But if you are in a position where you're able to charge people to come and use the space, you're going to make that money back really quickly. If you're not going to charge, and I actually recommend that you don't charge people, then I would just chalk it up as an expense for something that you love. I currently, each year, spend over £600 going to the gym. So if you have to spend £300 in order to insure a facility like this each year, and you can split that cost between a bunch of mates, I think that's well worth it. Whoa, well done. Red, come here. So once you've got your land, you've had a conversation with the people who own the land, you've got your public liability insurance in place, and your risk assessment. You'll also need to do a risk assessment. They're relatively easy to do. You can Google how to do a risk assessment, and whoever owns the land should basically be able to help you with that. And the insurance company should be able to help you with the risk assessment as well. What do you do next? Well, that's the fun bit, because next you get to build things. So if you're going to build some trials obstacles, we all know what it is that we need. We need large blocky things that we can jump from one to the other. Now, here is my advice. If you're going to build something that's on anything even remotely unprivate so that other people can get onto it, don't use pallets. Even if you are building it somewhere that's private and it's outdoors, pallets, after a very short amount of time outside, are going to start to rot. They're going to start to break as people hit them with their trials bikes and stuff. And after a couple of years, you're really going to be in a position where you're going to have to replace pretty much all the stuff that you've put there. All of this stuff is going to be here for about 10,000 years, because it's just massive bits of concrete and tyres, and they're not going to degrade for a very, very long time. So if you can't get simple things like pallets and stuff, then how on earth do you get all of this stuff? Well, really fortunately, there were two people that I happen to know that were able to help us out. One was a local quarry that's called Bros. Now, Bros are run by a group of guys who are really into motorbike trials. Jason Law was a schoolboy champion. Alex Law was a mate of mine. He used to ride motor trials and bike trials as well. And I rang them up and basically explained, and they knew all about trials. So I said, could we have a load of dumper truck tyres? They basically, in exchange for a few tickets to the Banger racing track, came and dropped some over for us. So that's how we got about 25 of those dumper truck tyres. And then in order to get the concrete, well, that was slightly harder. But actually, it turned out to be quite fortuitous, because about 2 miles over there is a place called Cornish Concrete Products. Now, as the name Cornish Concrete Products quite clearly suggests, they are a company that are based in Cornwall and produce concrete products. They're not the only people in the country that do this, thankfully. There are going to be people all over the country that make concrete. And if you are in any way good at what you do, if you're manufacturing something, there's going to be occasions where you make so much stuff that some of it's not going to come out right, some of it's going to come out cracked and broken and unfit for purpose. In some occasions, stuff will come out that basically the people who were asking you to make it in the first place are going to run out of money for their project, and you're not going to be able to sell it to them. And what happened was basically Cornish Concrete Products, I went over to ask them, have you got any spare bits of broken concrete? And it turns out they had several hundred tons of the stuff just sat in their lot doing nothing. So when I went over to Cornish Concrete and had a conversation with them and said, can we have some of your concrete stuff? They were actually really keen on the idea. Basically, it cost them about £400 per tonne in order to get rid of some of this concrete, because they've got to do it in a sustainable and safe way that fits health and safety guidelines and stuff. When it came to the fact that actually what they could just do was load about 30 tonnes of it at a time onto a lorry, which cost them 400 quid to bring over here, they were like, that's a much better deal. So they were more than happy to arrange that we could have all of this concrete. So that's what I would do next. Find someone who produces concrete. Go and talk to them and say, do you have any spare stuff that you want to get rid of? Have you got a backlot that you need to clear or something along those lines? Or go and talk to anyone who's doing major building works. A lot of stuff from another project that I knew that happened. Some guys, they needed some concrete pipes, and they went and talked to the guys that were doing the motorway expansions further up on the A30, and they basically got about 30 tons of concrete pipes just sent over because they had all this spare stuff going. So it's really worth checking with any building companies or building sites or anything like that. But again, you can just go straight to the source, find a concrete supplier and say to them, do you have some stuff that's going spare that you don't need anymore? And that worked really well for us. It ended up that essentially we thought we were going to get about 50 tons worth of stuff. And initially that is what we got. After that, they turned around and actually went, gee, it's really nice having all this space in our yard. We could get rid of the rest of the stuff down there, which was where another 110 tons of it showed up on a lorry, after they talked to us, of course. And that's how we got to build the rest of it. So once you've agreed with your concrete manufacturers that they're going to give you a load of the spare stuff that you have, you've kind of got to figure out how you're going to move it all around. The lightest thing here, like one of these smaller blocks, is about 700 kilos, and some of this stuff is nearly 5 tons. So you have to figure out a way to move it. And this is basically where plant hire comes into the situation. So if you're basically unfamiliar with the term, plant hire is the generic phrase for hiring out large machinery from places. Now, what we used to move all of this stuff around was called a telehandler. And if you've ever been to Charlie Roll's place or watched any of his videos, you'll see what a telehandler is. It's basically like a big off-road forklift truck capable of lifting close to and sometimes upwards of about 3 tons. And we looked around. Now, it was going to be really expensive to hire a telehandler actually, but again, we managed to play the card that we were doing something for the community, that we were doing something that was fun and important and for kids. And after calling about 3 different plant hire companies around here, I found one that was willing to hire us a telehandler for £100 a day. Now that is dirt cheap, £100 a day. And these guys were awesome. They literally brought it over here. They showed me how to use it, and they've let us actually hire it at the same rate a couple of times. And they were called Highway Plant. They do not do this for everyone. They've got a very good relationship with this place anyway, and they were very, very kind to us. So I want to put out a huge thank you to them. And of course to Cornish Concrete Products, Lawyer Bros, Autospeed, Cornwall Council, everyone else that's helped us out with this. But because we're talking about plant hire at the moment, particularly the guys from Highway Plant were really, really good to us. The great thing about telehandler as well is that if you're operating on private land, all that you need is a standard car driving license, and you can operate a telehandler. The good thing to know about this is that what you should always do when you get a telehandler for the first time, don't try and pick up a 2-ton block of concrete straight away. Try something small. Try some, these big tyres behind were actually quite good things to practice on, and that's what I used first of all, because they only weigh about 300 kilos, and you can lift them up and they bounce and stuff, so they're not too hard. Towards the end of the week where I was using the telehandler, I was lifting really, really heavy stuff, and it was learning to use the legs and things and move stuff around, which was really, really important to be able to understand so that we could move stuff properly. But that's honestly the best way that you're going to do it. I know it's seductive to go, oh, we can just get pallets and screw stuff together and things, but honestly, nature, vandalism and everything else is just going to have its way with those kind of things. If people can get in here and get to any of this concrete stuff, they can do what they want to it as far as I'm concerned. They're really not going to damage it unless they have literally dynamite with them. And if they're that kind of person, then that's a whole different kind of problem. But this stuff is going to last forever. We're never going to have to replace it. All we're ever going to have to do if we want to is move it around and change it. So yeah, that's my recommendation on how you do that. So I hate to try and oversimplify it, but that's basically it. Once you've got your land, you've spoken to the owners, you got your permissions, you got your insurance and your risk assessment, and then you've built something on it. Open it to the public, let people come and play, and make sure all of those steps are in place before you get going. Now, it didn't happen exactly like that where we are in Cornwall. We did things a little bit differently. We ended up having to ask for forgiveness rather than permission in some instances, but that's a whole complicated other thing. I don't need to go into that. But the important thing is to basically go and look for places like this where motorbike trials have already been, where 4x4 stuff has already been. If there's a 4x4 centre or a scrambler track or something else like that, that you can go in there and say, we just want to put something in a corner. They're the kind of people that are likely to have spare bits of ground that aren't being used for anything else, like this was. I feel a little bit bad because, to be honest, this is the bottom of the car park of the banger racing track, which was used, up until we put stuff here, was used for people to park their cars, and we basically took about 50 parking spaces. But the guys at the banger racing track were happy with that, and everyone who's ever come in here has basically looked at us and said, this is awesome, this is a great thing to have here. So yeah, don't skimp on your insurance, don't skimp on your risk assessments, make sure you do everything absolutely properly, and make it out of the best possible stuff that you can. Make it so that it's going to last for generations, not just stuff that's going to rot and fall away. Wood is great, it's beautiful, it's wonderful, and we use wooden pallets indoors over at BF Adventure, where they're going to be protected from the elements and where they're easy to move around and stuff, and we need them to be easy to move around. But out here, really, unless it's very, very big logs like they have at Elverston Castle, which Andrew Chai put together, then anything like pallets, and we've got some cotton reels here, but we're using them really sparingly because, again, they will over time just deteriorate and rot. So yeah, but the future of trials is in your hands, really. Building places like this wasn't easy. I had to have a lot of conversations with people. I had to go to a lot of different meetings. I'm still going to meetings about this place now. I had to put in a lot of time, unpaid. I had to spend a lot of money on things like paint in order to get this to look nice, and that's an important thing as well. Paint it, make it look good, make it look like it fits in with the landscape. You might also have things like environmental concerns. This is a World Heritage Site, and the World Heritage Organization has a lot of sway around this place, and they had some things to say about it. Luckily, we've got them on side now as well. It's not going to be particularly easy. Obviously, the easiest thing is, again, if you have a farmer who has a field that you can just put stuff in, then it's all well and good. So the one last thing that I will say before I sign off on the video is about planning permission, because a lot of people asked us, did we need planning permission to put this stuff here? And the answer is no. All of this is a temporary structure which can very easily be removed. There's no foundations or anything, so there was no planning permission necessary for any of it. And again, it all kind of came under the sort of asking for forgiveness rather than permission kind of thing, but your local council might see things differently if you're going to build something big like this. One other point I do want to make as well is that in terms of planning permission, we didn't have to have planning permission, but we did have to pay some money towards solicitors to change the license of the site so that we could have this thing here. Again, all of that is stuff that you might come up against, but I don't know. But in that instance, an interesting thing here is that actually, I can't promise anything at all, I won't make any promises, but Bike Trail Federation actually inferred that they were kind of keen to help out with sites like this, whereby if we've got a one-off bill to pay for something, which is like, you know, not like, I don't think I could use it for paint or anything else, but something just to help us with like legal bills and stuff, the Bike Trail Federation were keen to help with stuff like this. So if you were making something like this and you came up against some kind of legal situation where you needed to spend a little bit of money, Bike Trail Federation might be the people that could help you out. We haven't agreed that there's going to be a set fund for trials parks and facilities and places like that yet, but we're in discussions, and we're hoping that this means that more places like this can pop up around the country so that we can have more stuff to do. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it's been informative and explained a little bit about how we made this amazing place be what it is. If you want to know more about building a trials park like this, then please feel free to drop me a message. If you want to go out there and put something together which hopefully the younger generation are going to get to play on for years and years to see in the future, then I'm more than happy to try and help you out, and Bike Trail Federation are kind of keen as well. Thank you for watching this. I hope you guys have enjoyed it and found it informative, and I will see you guys all next week for whatever we've got then. Please go and subscribe. Thanks very much. Beatrix, no! Oh. You kicked your welly off.